Hello, everyone, and welcome to hockeyprospects.com YouTube channel. I'm Jérôme Bérubé, and I'm joined by Brad Allen. Brad, how's it going?
Well, we're doing Carolina, and that inspires me to learn the Russian language. So
Good luck with
they're in
that.
our
Good luck with
camp.
that. Yeah.
They're in our camp. They
Yeah.
they speak our language because Carolina has a very similar draft philosophy as we do. So it's nice to it's good to get validated occasionally in this industry because it's hard to find that. But Carolina is a heck of an organization. They're a top end team, and they also have like a legitimate top 12 to 14 range prospect pool, most likely, if we were to really try to rank it. So
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah. So, as Brad mentioned, we're going to talk about the Hurricanes top 10 prospect. So, I'm going to share the screen here so everyone can see what we have as far as top 10 prospect. Uh, Hurricanes was one of those teams that they have a lot of prospect. Every year they draft a ton of guys. So obviously Alexander Nikishin at number one, no surprise there. He's going to be challenging for the Calder Trophy this season. I saw a few sequence by him in the NHL preseason. Looks like he's ready to rock. Like I think last year when he came over was a bit of a struggle to understand like what's going on a bit, but he looks like he's ready to rock and roll this season, and he's an incredible prospect because his draft year was so weird. We watched him really early on, and we thought he was just physical but didn't have anything else going on for him. As you see, we didn't even rank him in his draft year. Like
Oops.
that's a big fail. That's a big fail on
Big.
us.
It's a big oops. That's
And
not good on us. That's
yeah,
bad.
and that's a lesson I think we have learned is sometimes we watch players early on and we don't like them, and we kind of like, well, I don't need to watch this player anymore. Keep the lesson here is keep watching because sometimes those players really improve. But to be fair, I don't know I don't know if there's anyone on the planet who thought Nikishin would improve at that rate because Hurricanes took him in the third round, and we are what 5 years later, and he's one of the best prospect on the planet. So I don't think the Hurricanes predicted that back in 2020, but yeah, just he's gonna be a really good defenseman in the NHL with like he's got skill, he's physical. He's gonna be really tough to play against. He will play a lot of minutes. So tons to like here. Bradley not doing number two. He's apparently doing pretty well in camp. As we are recording this, big time shooter. Like he's one of the best prospect as far as shooting ability. Good hands. Works hard. Two-way game has improved. And then we get a bunch of Russian after that. Kurban Limitov, Semyon Frolov, both guys picked in last year's draft. Limitov has a lot of potential. We had him really high in the draft class. We had him 16 and he went 67. So either we're really right or we're really wrong about this prospect. But he's a big, athletic, um, you know, defenseman who has some offensive skill, who has some physicality. It's somewhat similar to what Nikishin is. Don't get me wrong. I'm not predicting him to be as good as Nikishin, but as far as a profile of a prospect, there's some similarity between the two of them. So we'll see with how Limitov does this season. Frolov was our third ranked goalie last season. Brad will probably have a few words to say about him. Unger Sorum, Artemanov are really interesting prospect, but one guy who we think will maybe pass over those two is Charlie Serrato from Penn State, who's a great story. Um, took him 3 drafts to finally get picked, but he had a monster year last year. And maybe if we're not going to do it, but if we redid this ranking in 6 months, maybe you'll see Serrato higher on this list. So, and then after that, Dominic Badinka, and then Charles Alexis Legault at number 9. We will have a lot to say about him because we didn't rank him, but we had lots of time for him. We just didn't think the hockey IQ was gonna hold. And his draft year, this was the COVID draft year, so he actually played in the BCHL some preseason game, and we saw him there. He was incredible. So, but then he moved to the USHL, and his play completely collapsed over there. But the BCHL version was actually like really interesting. Like you can make a case he was a top 3, top 5 athlete in his draft year. Like amazing skater for his size. His stamina is unreal. He can skate for days basically. So he's a really interesting one, and I mean he has made so much progress in college and then in his first pro year, and now he's as we're recording, he's challenging for a roster spot with the Hurricanes. If you told us this 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we would have not believe you. So great story for Legault. And Alexander Rykov, a guy we had him. He was in our top 32 back in 2023. He slipped all the way to the 4th round. Unfortunately for him, he's been hurt a few times since his draft year. So this has hurt a bit his progression. So we'll see. But he's a talented player. We think he could have enough to be a middle 6 at the NHL level. But he's got some things to improve, like his skating. But he has good hands. Brad has already sent me some clips of him this season, doing some good things back in the KHL. So we're not quitting on Rykov, but maybe his draft year ranking was a bit too high, looking back. But we'll see. We're not quitting on him. He's still a top 10 prospect here. Brad, I'll let you maybe rant a bit here on the Hurricanes prospect and who you want to start with.
Well, I'll mention more on Rykov. So, I mean, he scored one of the prettiest goals we've seen this year so far. That's for sure. It was a ridiculous goal from his. He basically carved through the defense and ended up on his knee and still managed to get the deke and roof it over the goalie once he was getting back to his feet. So, it was a flash reminder that there's more talent than people think. And that if you look at him from a 200-foot perspective, he's one of the best defensive wingers from a prospect perspective. So it's all about how much offense translates. Like the handling and playmaking rates, I think, are there. It's just about getting the shot consistency up another level. I think that would really help him. But to Jerome's point, he's a bit slight and he's been injured repeatedly. And it makes sense because from a mental maturity perspective, he's well ahead of the curve, but from a physical perspective, he's well under the curve. And so what happens was with players like that is like Zach Benson's another example. You get players who get hurt often because they should be playing up levels, but then they're physically not ready for it. So that's the Rykov's situation. So don't count him out just yet. To Jerome's point, so like Alexander Nikishin, like that's like getting a call and finding out you had an unexpected kid. Like that's a big whoops. Like it's not one of those like small situations for us where we look at it and say, okay, well, we kind of got it wrong. We got it really wrong. I remember specifically the one thing we talked about is he looked like a Russian PK Subban. The huge issue with him though was the hockey sense looked really poor. Like we use a 3 to 9 scale. We use the jet system. We finally got like halves in there after a much of a debate with Mark. But the thing with Nikisha is like if you graded his hockey sense as draft year, it looked like a 3.5 on most nights. Yeah. And so because of that, we're like, we're done. We're moving on. We completely failed to take in consideration that Russian defense in terms of their development and development strategies in the MHL are very different than the CHL, especially when it comes to like Nikishin actually played huge minutes at 17 in the MHL, so it was guaranteed he would be more error prone. In our I guess like I scout Russia a lot. In our defense, the big thing for me was like from an experience perspective as a scout, I wasn't like aware of how significant it would be trying to determine like the error rates with his playing time, with the extended windows he was looking to operate in, and trying to compare them with CHL players who are already in more structured environments. It's just something we totally missed on, and trying to evaluate correctly. The other factor is like, admittedly, like even some of the, like even 2 years ago, I was watching him in the KHL and his stretch playmaking was awful. Like he was in the neutral zone, he was terrible. I was like, man, he still doesn't know how to do some things that are very important to actually translating. But I give the kid mad props. Like he's obviously found a way to become a top prospect, and he is one of the biggest misses we've had. We've had several. That's a huge one. However, we did get a huge hit, and that was Bradley Nadeau. We absolutely love Bradley Nadeau. We had him highly ranked. The shot is ludicrous. Like he has a top 5 shot, I would say, out of any prospect. I don't think he gets enough recognition as a prospect because he's still raw. In terms of maturity levels off the puck, in terms of his engagement levels, in terms of his defensive acumen, that's obviously nowhere near where his offense is. However, I've been watching him preseason. I'm very interested by this player. He had a primary assist in the last game he played leading up to this recording, where he actually won a puck battle and gained inside positioning and kicked the puck from his skate to his blade and managed to get a pass off. And it's those types of plays that he has to do at a higher rate in order to translate what he's doing. But when you look at his wheelhouse, it's ludicrous. His catch and release, his wheelhouse, one-time option, and his wrist shot in transition are preposterous. They are ludicrous tools. Like he's weaponized for shooting. Like if he's not a Brock Besser style of winger, I'll be very surprised. Let's put it that way. Like I think Brock Besser type, and the thing with Brock Besser, I feel like Brock Besser's had a tragic career. Like he's kind of a Shakespearean tragedy in the sense that like when you looked at him when he first came in and he was an all-star, like he's never been that player since his injuries. Like he got injured a lot. He had some severe injuries. Then his dad passed away. And like, I feel like his career could have been so much more than it has been. I feel like Nadeau could have the all-star rookie Besser version if things go right. And that is enormous for Carolina, because Carolina, like they have a lot of phenomenal players in their top 9, but they have nothing that shows the lethality of Nadeau's shot. So it could really change the complexion of the team, much the way Nikishin could. And that brings me to Limatov. Jérôme, what if Limatov pulls a Nikishin? Then Carolina's crazy. They got like 2 gigantic Russian torpedo style defensemen who do everything. And the one thing with Limatov is like that's very similar to Nikishin is the power game they play. They can dominate players. They're just so physically dominant. Like Limatov is one of the most physically imposing defensemen of the last several drafts. Like you can't knock this kid off a puck. He will destroy you in the neutral zone. He'll blow you up with stand-up hits. And there's more. Now, I don't think he has the offensive ceiling as Nikishin. I don't, but I definitely think he can actually be as good, if not better, defensively. And then, he's raw. He's going to need time, but Carolina has all the time in the world to cook him. That brings me to another raw prospect who needs a whole lot of time to simmer. That's Semyon Frolov. So Semyon Frolov, talent-wise, like he's right there with Ravensburg and Andreonov in some areas. Incredible hip line dexterity. Reminds me a lot of one of my favorite goalie prospects, Timofey Avintsev in that regard, like ludicrous hip dexterity. And that matters because it means he has extension rates that are very rare. And it means that his lateral transfer rates when he's in a loaded position are extremely explosive. However, he does overplay the position. He has lateral overflow. He can lose his net. His crease containment needs to go up. And he's one of those goalies where when he's on, he's really on. But when he's off, there's like some of his technique isn't there yet, and he makes the game harder than it should be for himself. So routine shots become very unroutine, and then he has to rely on his athleticism when he shouldn't. So it's one of those molding processes for him, but he's an extremely high-end goalie prospect who has a ton of potential if he hits. And then you get into the intelligent playmaking zone. So Felix Ungersorum, He's a primary playmaker, extremely intelligent player, processes the game at a high rate. Artamonov falls in that category as well, and Serrato does as well. All three are primary playmakers. All three. They play differently though. Artamonov, it's all about his edge work and his elusiveness and processing. Sorum, bit behind Artamonov in terms of edge work, but it's processing. Serrato's the wild card, as Jérôme mentioned, because he has that power element. That's where he can jump and leapfrog some of these other prospects if he develops correctly. Personally, fan favorite at Hockey Prospect. We're huge fans of him. It's one of those situations where he can be a bit raw. In terms of like just his execution rates, they need to get cleaned up a bit. Like for instance, he can like have an end-to-end rush that looks beautiful, but then his hands fail him at the last second. He loses the puck, and as a result of that, he doesn't get the chance he should have had theoretically. So it plays like that where he needs to clean it up a bit. But if he can do that, then he could be an extremely interesting wild card for Carolina's system.
Yeah, it's a good prospect pool.
I mean, it's amazing considering how high they finish in the standings.
They also always trade down. So
they're always trading down. They're all, like, for where they draft, you could make an argument it's one of the best.
Yeah.
If you talk about like how good they are as an actual team, where they and it goes back to our philosophy. I came in to Hockey Prospect in 2018, and the first thing I told Mark Edwards was the most untapped potential in terms of being able to catch up for franchises that are doing well is how good they are at scouting out of Russia. And the best example of that ever was Kirill Marchenko. We thought he was a top 20 prospect or very, very close to. We thought he was A-rated. We thought he was a first rounder. When I saw that he fell to the 40s, I knew right then and there that the NHL had some glaring weaknesses depending on the team, where if you don't have a Russian scout who can speak fluent English and actually shows up and goes to rinks, like you have a distinct advantage if you have that. Distinct advantage. Carolina obviously feels extremely comfortable drafting out of Russia, and it is one of the best advantages you can have as an organization if they come over and hit. And the way the league is structured now is we've seen the most Russians coming in the last 12 years. Last year specifically, the last 12 years, the most Russians we've seen coming in, because the food for thought or the concept was, unless they're elite, there's no point in them coming. Because unless they get to play in the top 6 or top 9, they have no interest in coming over. They want to stay over back home in Russia where it's more comfortable. That's not the case anymore. Like, we're seeing a lot more depth Russians come over. We're seeing a lot more prospects come over at younger ages. And yes, of course, the Russian factor exists. But I think it's becoming less of a concern for teams, especially if a team already has Russians on their team or in their organization, because then they're more comfortable talking to one another and then they're good to go. So I think that's the huge thing there. And then obviously Carolina exploits this more than any other team right now.
Yeah.
And as they should. If you draft later, draft the best Russians available, because if they hit in redrafts, they're always going way higher. And that's just it's
I mean,
smart.
there's a lot of Russian in that top 10, but they have a lot of Russian that did not make that top 10. So
Tons.
Roman Bosov, a guy we liked last year, Avramov, Trikazov, Perivalov, Grudinin, like some of those guys will not play, but just to give people an idea how many Russian Carolina has draft. Like they are stacked with Russians, and also like it's not going to work out for all of them, but at least you give you as a team, as a organization, you give yourself a chance to find some some underrated prospect that sometime, more often than not, they will drop in the draft, and that's why the Hurricanes often will trade down to get those guys because they know they will drop. So it's a quite of an interesting philosophy that they have over there, and you look at that prospect pool. It's pretty good. They have that scouting philosophy, but also they have a good development team. You look at how much Legault improved since he was drafted by the Hurricanes. Like, we didn't think
in the AHL, people didn't think he would hold. He held. I mean, when he scored 32 goals as a true 19-year-old,
like
ridiculous.
I thought he left college too soon. Like when I saw he left Maine,
most people did.
Yeah.
Most people.
Yeah, when he left Maine after 1 year, I was like, ooh, that's too soon, I think. And then, what do I know? All right, that's gonna wrap up the Hurricanes top 10 prospect ranking. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye on our YouTube channel. We have a lot more videos like this coming up. The next team will be the Chicago Blackhawks. And speaking of a team who is stacked with prospect, they have a ton. So don't miss that.
We might have to do HMs for that. We might have some honorable mentions are coming for that one. Oh my
Whole bunch
god!
of like they have first round picks that are not in the top 10. So all right. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys soon for another video.